at gunpoint to his face, tried to put him in the boot of his car. He was our best president. And it's just a pity that he was too old to. With their help, I moved over to Korea. I realized the government is garbage. I know my friends are thinking I'm crazy now. The Caribbean is nice. I don't personally like it. I've been to basically every island in the Caribbean, and because I used to live just outside London on both sides of the United Kingdom. But Botswana, no, super safe. People still leave their doors unlocked in Botswana now. Every coral island from Caribbean to Pacific is not my favorite. It's definitely a difficult country for a Westerner to move to. And I still eat burgers. That was the best job ever. All friends can be difficult, but literally our whole interview could be this crime, which is very sad.
Hello everyone. Today in our studio we have a guest from South Africa, Sheldon.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about the travelings, about the life in different countries, and Sheldon will talk about his country as well. So here we go. Sheldon, welcome to our studio.
Thank you for having me. It's nice, lovely weather outside, raining.
Yes, so okay, Sheldon, tell us where you're from and how it all started.
Well, gosh, it's a long story. I'll try and make it short. Well, I'm from South Africa, as you said.
Yeah.
It's a lovely country, and it's a lovely country, but it's more dangerous now than it used to be. But a very beautiful country, and I still love it in my heart. I don't think you mentioned I don't live there anymore, but only because of the danger. It's still a lovely country, but I moved to South Korea 11 years ago. So to any South Africans watching this, don't be annoyed if I speak about something and it's incorrect. It's because I haven't been there in 11 years.
All right.
Do you have another? What else you want me to talk about?
Yeah, just so you was born in South Africa, and
Yes.
you was going to school, or just tell us about your family background and.
Yeah, the childhood. Childhood in South Africa, I would compare to. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I would compare to a childhood, say, in the United States in the 1960s. This is the type of life I had in the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to things were very safe. The kids, we used to play in the forest. I keep looking at camera. I should be looking at you actually. Sorry.
It's alright.
We used to play in the forest as a kid. So when I was finished school, I used to go and with my friends, and I love nature, so I used to hang out in the bush essentially. And I grew up with my grandparents, so I wasn't raised by my parents. So I had a very old-fashioned background, raised by older people.
Which city was it?
Durban.
Durban.
So Durban, for anyone who doesn't know, Durban, east coast, northeast of South Africa.
Yes.
The weather is exactly the same as Miami. Exactly the same weather, heat.
Nice. So you say that time it was safe for because you grow up in like a white family, right? Family of white people.
Yes.
Did you grow up in? Was the area only for white people, or it was mixed up at that time?
In the 80s, this area was for Indian people and white people.
Okay.
But for African people, like the black people, it wasn't actually. And when I say safe, back then South Africa was safer for every color, because right now it's dangerous, and it doesn't matter what color you are. So even though there were restrictions on the African people then, for them to walk in the city at night time or to walk in the city in the daytime was safer then than it is now, because now it's dangerous and it doesn't matter what color you are.
Okay. So what about, do you have any sisters, brothers? You're only child?
No, technically I'm the only child. So I have two sisters though, but they are half sisters, so they are my mom's kids, but not my actual dad's kids. But I see them as actual sisters, so I guess I have two sisters.
So your childhood was mostly in South Africa, right? And what happened after that when you graduated school? What did you do?
It's actually harder for me to remember this than it is to remember my childhood. What happened? I went to university
in South Africa.
Yes,
right?
yes, in South Africa. I got a few, obviously, like everybody, we've got part-time jobs and all this. And then I think my first job overseas was on a ship, actually a South African cruise line, but as sort of part-time in 1999 when I was 10. No, I'm not going to say my age. Yeah, I got a job on a South African ship, and we used to go to Madagascar and Mauritius and Mozambique, and that was nice for experience. But I disliked the ship. The ship life on the South African ships was awful, not so nice.
Not so nice.
No.
So who were the passengers?
South Africans, all South African people.
Mostly white. Or different.
But then that was 1999, no, so it was half. There was a lot of black people then because the restrictions and all the unfair laws to the black people were lifted in 94. Because
1994, right?
Yeah, because 94 already they had the first free election. And a lot of people didn't want Nelson Mandela, the first black president, to come into power.
Right.
Some people thought he would come in and he would make problems. But it was the exact opposite. He didn't. He came in, and still to today, everybody can look back and say he was our best president. And it's just a pity that he was too old to continue.
Yes.
Because he would have improved South Africa. He was actually trying to improve things, whereas the current president now doesn't care. He really just doesn't care about anything, except making himself rich. That's the only thing he cares about.
Okay, see. So then you went to work on the part-time on the cruise lines, and you was going to university.
Yes.
What did you study
Mainly electronic engineering. So, and I got a job in electronic engineering for a while, and it was just the most depressing time of my life. I remember thinking, I have to keep this job because I have a qualification for it, and my grandparents would be very upset if I didn't keep this job. But I wasn't happy. There was no traveling.
Yes.
It was electronic engineering is extremely, at least for me, boring. You sit at a desk and it's blueprints. You're on the computer and you're just doing circuitry and approving other people's circuitry diagrams. And
yes.
I just could not see myself doing it even 2 years, never mind the rest of my life. So I completely resigned from that job, and my grandparents were very upset. But it's the best decision I ever made, because the rest of my life changed.
So then you decided to leave that job, right? Where did you go? What was the next?
Well, then I got a job at a photo laboratory, like printing photographs and adjusting the colors and all this. And I was doing part-time photography for myself, just for money. Mostly my friends all my one friend owned a dance studio. So these girls would dance, and then whenever they had a show, I would take the photographs of them. So even though I really didn't want to, I started to learn how to photograph people. I'm not the biggest people person, so but it worked out okay. I think my photos taught me a lot, and that actually came in very handy, useful for the later on jobs.
That's good. So later you developed how to say, desire to travel, right? And so you was looking for some job will make you traveling a lot, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
after that, what happened next?
Princess Cruises, around about 2006, 2004. I got a job on Princess Cruises as a photographer.
Oh.
But I'll tell you now, being a photographer on a cruise ship is not creative. You're just a robot pressing a button. So I didn't enjoy the job so much, but I really enjoyed the traveling, and taking photos of all these different places was amazing.
Okay.
So that happened there, and then and that's where I met a Korean girl in guest services.
Okay.
She became my girlfriend, and then for years before that I already loved Korea, and I'd already paid for a few holidays to Korea, my own money.
Okay.
So with her help, without her I wouldn't have been able to do it. With her help I moved over to Korea. I had a bit of a traumatic family experience. My gran passed away, and that was my life really. My gran was my mom essentially, because my mom I didn't really know. So once that happened, I didn't really feel I had many ties to South Africa, and South Africa had become much more dangerous. So I thought, you know what, this is a good time to leave. So I saw the real Korea with her, because before then You know, when you travel to a place and maybe it's a holiday, you don't really see what it's like to work there,
Yes.
what real people live, what their life is. But through her, I experienced, like I would call real Korea, and I still loved it. And then you know you really like a place when you see the normal Korea. And I loved it even more actually. So it took like 2 years to transition, but eventually, very hard, I got there.
So in which year you moved to South Korea, definitely?
Say again?
At which year you moved?
2010?
2010, right?
2010 December, yes.
So you're like 10
No,
years.
2010, 2009 December, yes.
So you can say you like
11.
living in South Korea for around like let's say 10, 11 years. Right?
Yeah, coming up to 11 years now.
Okay. And so you never been back home in South Africa since after that?
I did once in 2011, so it's been 9 years since I've actually gone to South Africa.
Okay.
So
You don't have really family now back home in South Africa?
I do. I still have my sisters and just my grandfather. So I call him. He will never move because he's so old now. You know, old people they don't want to move.
Okay.
And my sisters are moving. They are both going to emigrate to, I think, one to United Kingdom, and the other one's trying to decide between Thailand and New Zealand. But Thailand's got problems now, so I think she's changing her mind.
So what's happening now in South Africa? Like people, like the white people, they want to move away from South Africa, or it depends.
I think that's already happened. So already when things started to get much worse in the late 1990s, millions of white people left South Africa, like 1.5 million. So the main group have left. The people that are white people in South Africa now, the ones that are left are the ones that can't leave, either because their jobs aren't good enough, because it's hard to leave. You can't just leave.
Yes.
So they're kind of stuck. So they make the most of what they have. But there's millions of black people that can't leave either, and they'd love to leave. Educated African people that realize the government is garbage. I've got a few black friends there that cannot leave. They are well educated, but their job is just not good enough for New Zealand or Australia to accept them. Like lots of white people, lots of Indian people. So I feel for them. You know, it's not easy to live in a place you know has serious problems, and the rest of the world, a lot of places in the rest of the world don't have to deal with these huge problems. For instance, one of the most dangerous cities in America is Baltimore. It's the 3rd or 4th most dangerous city. The most dangerous part of Baltimore is a normal part of a regular South African city. And the most dangerous part of a South African city, the United States doesn't have. It doesn't exist. Just to put it into perspective. I visited, Baltimore many times because we had a ship that its home port was Baltimore. And twice I went to the middle of Baltimore and I wanted to see real Baltimore, not where the ship docks and all the pretty harbour. That's safe. I went to the middle of the city and outskirts. I walked by myself. I had my camera tucked away. I thought, okay, I can do this. I lived in South Africa. And it wasn't very nice. Definitely not what America promotes as America. There was lots of garbage. There were drug dealers. Most buildings had smashed windows. You could see homeless people more than I've seen in the United States. But I was fine. Honestly, for me, walking there was like walking in Durban on a normal day. It was nothing, not worse than Durban at all. But just to give you an example of how South Africa is, unfortunately.
So, do you have many friends back home in South Africa who been the victims or suffered from this violence or
every single friend? Yeah, every single friend of mine. If I've got 15 good friends in South Africa, everyone except for me has had a very violent crime committed against them. And surprisingly, and I don't know how, all of them are still alive, even though many of them almost died. I can give one or two examples quickly.
Yes. Okay.
My one friend, I'm not going to say his real name because if he watches this, I don't want him.
Okay.
But let's call him John. Coming home from work, it must have been the year 2004. He came home to his house, stopped, got out the car to open the gate. These guys are waiting with guns in the bush, like they're waiting for somebody to come home. jumped out the bush, held him up, and tried to push him at gunpoint to his face, tried to put him in the boot of his car. And what they normally do is they take your car, they kill you, and they drop the body somewhere. But he ran. He ran and they shot, and they missed. They didn't get him, but they took his car. Probably the worst, my friend, let's call her Jill, she had a 3-year-old kid, or had a 3-year-old kid in those days. This was 2003. She was stopped at what we call robots in South Africa, but the rest of the world calls them traffic lights. In South Africa, a traffic light is a robot. Weird. She was stopped at the traffic light. 2 guys, it's always 2 guys, they come with guns to the window. They forced her out the car because they're aiming a gun at her head. So she had to open the door. They put her in the back seat. They took her and her kid, and they started driving with her to the middle of nowhere. And they were talking in their language. It was Zulu language then.
Okay.
But she could understand. Not everyone can, but she can understand. They were discussing whether they should rape her and then kill her, or just kill her. And she was saying, and so she replied, and she said, please, neither. Can you just, I've got a child. They seemed shocked that she could speak their language, and I think maybe that changed their decision. They didn't do either. They didn't rape or kill her, thank God, but they dropped her and her kid in the middle of absolutely nowhere, like a really bad area where other people had to. My other friends have all had issues with knife crime or gun crime. Probably the worst is my friend's dad was shot in the stomach while coming home from work. Same thing, got out the car to open the gates to the house. 2 guys jumped out the bush, it's always the same thing, shot him in the stomach, and he almost died, almost, emergency surgery. Literally our whole interview could be this crime, which is really sad. You know. For myself, worst thing is I was mugged at knife points in broad daylight in my town, just outside Durban. 3 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon, two guys again, but these guys didn't have guns, they had knives. It was my girlfriend at the time. They pushed us apart and they tried to stab us. And we had electric stun guns we always used to carry for defense in case of this. And I shot the guy on his forehead and my girlfriend shot the guy on his chest. And it's not like the movies, they don't go unconscious, they just kind of let us go and then ran across the street. So that was my worst thing, I think. I'm lucky actually, that's not so bad. Sorry, rambling about crime.
It's horrible.
But I must point out for anyone watching, if you go to South Africa as a tourist, you are generally quite fine. Almost no big crimes are committed against tourists in South Africa. Almost none.
Okay.
I think the last thing I can remember is an Indian woman was murdered in Cape Town 15 years ago, and it made world news.
Okay.
So that's like a big deal. Why? Because in South Africa, if a criminal commits a crime against a tourist, oh my God, the police will crack down on that like crazy. They will find that criminal and prosecute and send him to jail forever, because they don't want their tourism to die. But for the local people, oh no, the police don't care at all. For people who live there, and it doesn't matter if you're black or Indian or white, it doesn't matter. The police just don't care. And for anybody saying, oh no, about the white people, that they're getting it worse. No, the white people are the exact same crime as the black people, same crime as the Indian people. They're all getting it the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not really
crime.
not really pretty situation at the moment, right? And what is your forecast? Is it gonna change for better, or is it gonna be more worse, much worse? What do you think?
Well, currently, because of coronavirus, and South Africa didn't have a strong economy anyway, South Africa's economy was already being ruined by the government, and now it's been devastated by coronavirus. So definitely in the next few years, definitely won't be getting better. But once the economy, maybe it'll recover after coronavirus, we'll need the party that's in charge, the current political party, needs to go. Under their leadership, there's no way anything can change.
So, what was the main economy in South Africa?
Used to be gold, precious metals, and gold and diamonds. Gold, diamonds, platinum. I think we are still the world leader in platinum, #1, or maybe China is now #1 actually. We used to be world number one for diamonds, we used to be world number one for gold. But because of the mismanagement of the new, I'm going to say government in inverted commas because they're not really governing anything, but under the new governments, thank you ANC, if you're watching this, it's true. Under the ANC government, the gold production in South Africa slipped so badly. So now China, I think, is number one for gold, and maybe Australia is second. But well managed, the country has a potential to easily be still number one for gold. Because in the whole world, South Africa was the best for nearly all precious metals and diamonds, which is incredible. And that's how they got their wealth and how it became the richest country in Africa.
I see. All right. Let's talk about traveling.
Yes.
So, like for this moment, how many countries and continents and regions have you visited so far? And just focus on some areas which you like, where you've been impressed, or which shocked you and whatever. Yeah.
I'm assuming not South Korea because I live there.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that later? Because
Yeah.
if I say I'm impressive, I'm just going to talk about South Korea. So I mean, apart from South Korea.
Yeah, apart from South Korea.
Okay. I don't know, like by number wise, how many countries? A few. The country thing is difficult because some people say, "Oh, I've been to 26 countries or 50 or 100 or whatever," and I didn't take the test you sent me. You sent me a test for countries. Sorry.
Yeah.
But some people count countries they've been to via aeroplane, which I don't count. If I've stopped in the
Of course,
country's
yeah.
airport,
It's just transit actually. But let's say not counting transit, but just
yes, yeah. And
country
some
way.
people, like one of my friends said he's been to United States. I said, okay, cool. Where? New York. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. You've been to New York, but I've also been to the United States, but every major city basically, and many small towns. So I think when you say you've been to a country, sometimes it can be very general or very deep into that country.
Yes.
But places I would have to break up. So I mean, like genres. My best tropical island, if you're going to talk about what everybody likes,
Yes.
white sand and palm trees and all this, definitely New Caledonia in the South Pacific.
Yes.
That island chain. Not necessarily Noumea, which is on the main island, the main city. That's okay. But places like Isle of Pines. Isle of Pines sticks in my head.
Yeah.
Even where the ship, where our little tender boat docks, that's beautiful. But if you walk 40 minutes away from there, it's some of the most beautiful deserted beaches I've ever seen in my whole life. The usual white sand that you see in the Caribbean, but unlike the Caribbean, instead of just boring palm trees, you have pine trees. My
Pine
accent's
trees.
going to sound... Yeah, these pine trees, you
Yeah.
know, which is a very unusual look.
Yes.
And those beaches are just 40 minutes from the ship, don't even have footprints on them. No people, not even the footprints in the sand from anybody. And just pure wild, no shark nets, so you have to watch out if you swim in the ocean. But
Yeah.
just so pristine and beautiful, and the water's no garbage, nothing like this. The Caribbean is nice. I don't personally like it. I've been to basically every island in the Caribbean, and I'll always say this: once you've seen Isle of Pines, Caribbean seems like a poor man's Isle of Pines. Like Isle of Pines in Caribbean is 16 islands below that.
Yes.
Sorry for anybody who's been to the Caribbean and not Isle of Pines.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite city, big city, apart from Seoul. But then I'm going to say Tokyo, another East Asian city. I think that is my favorite mega big city.
Okay.
But in the United States, San Francisco is amazing. Although it's dangerous, it's dirty, it's got lots of homeless people. But it's a very beautiful city. The architecture, the way crazy Americans build all the buildings on the edge of hills, even though it's the most earthquake-prone city in the United States, they build everything on the edge, just to see if maybe it'll fall over when there's an earthquake, I think.
Crazy. Well, what about Europe?
Actually,
where
Europe,
have you been, and what is your favorite parts?
Europe's one of the very few places I haven't been to, at least around the Mediterranean at all. I've been a lot to United Kingdom, if you could class it as Europe anymore, because I used to live just outside London, on both sides of the United Kingdom I used to live. So I know the United Kingdom very well, and Wales,
Yes.
and Scotland. But Europe, never have apart from going to the airport, I've never actually travelled to any country within Europe.
Oh, really?
Somehow, all these years I haven't. um,
Oh, I see.
although I know it's very beautiful, I've seen all the
What about
places.
South America? South America, you done it?
Obscure places like Venezuela, of all places.
You done Venezuela?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, like once there was an island called Isla Margarita in the northern part of
Yeah.
Venezuela,
Yes.
and then the main part of Venezuela, Caracas. Is Caracas?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God,
Capital.
very interesting to see, but
You've been by yourself?
super
or
dangerous. No, with friends.
On the,
We had a one.
you traveling or you been on the ship working?
It was both, because it was
Both.
2 weeks of emergency repairs with Princess Cruises,
Oh, really?
and they had to dock in an oil depot because Venezuela does a lot of oil. The ship had to do an emergency docking. It couldn't make its way back. It was Golden Princess. It couldn't make its way back to Miami. It was impossible. We had to do an
Ah.
emergency stop at an dock at an oil facility north of Venezuela. We had 10 days off work
Okay.
in Venezuela. Yeah,
Oh, that's how
really
you got
dangerous
there.
place, Venezuela.
That's how you got there, right?
So we had 10 days. So we had someone who lived in Colombia, which is close. So they had the ability to hire a car and everything, so that we hired a car.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting to see, but super dangerous. Military everywhere, guns everywhere.
It's been
everywhere,
already
guns.
since it all started, like, right? Since the new government, right?
I
Which
can't
year
remember.
was that?
That was 2005. So I'm not sure if they had a new
Still,
government.
still okay, right? Still not so bad as now.
Yeah, I think it's worse now. I think it's
Yeah,
worse now.
alright.
But even then, you could see the problems wherever you looked around. A lot of security. Every police officer, not with small guns, every police officer with rifles strapped to their chest. And they weren't special police. Normal police, they have huge guns strapped to their
I
chest.
see,
You can
yes.
see they've got issues with crime, for
Okay.
sure.
What about the rest of South America, like Brazil?
No, never,
No,
never
never.
Brazil. Trying to think. No, that would be it, actually. In South America, just Venezuela.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? That's that's interesting. What about Isla Margarita? Been also on the ship, right?
That was on ship, yes.
But it was emergency stop or just
That was a stop, an actual stop.
actual stop?
Yes, that's a nice island, but
It's safe, right? It's
safer than Venezuela, but still considered quite dangerous. They would say, walking in town, don't show your valuables, and
alright.
so safer than Venezuela, but still not very safe.
So you from South Africa. So what about Africa, like African continent? Did you travel a little bit?
Yes, all throughout South Africa, all parts. Namibia, in the southwest,
Mm-hmm.
very, very safe place and beautiful place. South Africa used to own them, and then they got independence in 1990, actually, only.
Mm.
Mount Kilimanjaro in Kenya,
All right.
on the border of Kenya. I actually climbed Mount Kilimanjaro
climbed?
with friends, not by myself. You're crazy, you can't do that. But over 6 days,
6 days for you took to climb.
top and back down, and that's quite long. You can do it in 4 days, actually. 6 days
Wow.
is just so you don't kill yourself.
It's amazing. Huh?
Mozambique, very dangerous place, but can be very pretty. Madagascar, a few places,
All right.
also dangerous, but very uniquely pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Zimbabwe,
I
Zambia.
was just going to say Zimbabwe, the border of Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls. Back then, that was very different. That was before massive troubles with their president Mugabe, who just stole all the farms and changed everything.
Okay.
It was a more rich country then, a world leader in tobacco. Now they don't lead in anything,
All
unfortunately.
right. Botswana.
Yes, Botswana. Yeah, I'm
Also.
remembering all this. Botswana's amazing.
Eswatini or Swaziland.
Swaziland right next to me. Yeah, it's
Lesotho.
within South Africa. It's a tiny little place. But Botswana is an amazing African country. One of the few African countries that's very, very, very safe. Extremely safe. Now we're talking levels of like Norway safe. That type of safe.
Oh, really?
Botswana is more safe than the United Kingdom. It's really is a wonderful African success story. With Botswana is run by the monarchy. They've got a king and a queen, and they are just respected by the people. They are actually not corrupt. They're really good people. This is what happens when you get good people in charge. And the people just submit to their rule, essentially, and their rule is fair. It's a very unique situation, because most kings and queens, if they ran a country, they would probably be corrupt and steal the money.
Yeah.
But Botswana, no, super safe. People still leave their doors unlocked in Botswana now. That's crazy. Especially in Africa. Their murder rate is incredibly low. And what's even more shocking is they're sitting right on South Africa there, and it's just from one of the most violent countries in the world to one of the safest, and certainly the safest country in Africa. And Botswana has a place called the Etosha Pan, which is an enormous flat area, and once a year in summer it floods with water. So it goes from dry, and then it becomes a massive lake, and then it goes back to dry. With lots of these birds, flamingo birds, these pink birds, which live naturally there, and there's thousands of them. Fascinating place.
Nice. What about Swaziland? Have you been to Swaziland?
I have been to Swaziland.
Do you feel any different between Swaziland and South Africa?
No, it's you know, South Africans see it as South Africa, even though it's Swaziland. It's South Africa. It's within South Africa.
Exactly.
Feels no different at all.
And Lesotho?
Lesotho, yes. It's up in the mountains, and did a lot of hikes there. Lesotho can be very dangerous. In fact, it's extremely dangerous. I would say for certain crimes, Lesotho is more dangerous than South Africa. If you're hiking in South Africa in the mountains, because the mountains there is called the Drakensberg, which is actually Dutch for like Dragon's Mountain.
Okay.
If you're hiking there, you need to be careful for what they call like Lesotho mountain men. They'll come from Lesotho and hide. They won't kill you, but they're not violent. They can beat you up, but they'll steal your possessions. So if you hike in those mountains near Lesotho, you need to do it in a group. Because if they find you by yourself, for sure they will take everything you have, your camera, your equipment, your clothes.
Shit. Cool, man. What about these small islands like near Madagascar, like Mauritius, Réunion? You've been there, right?
Yes, I've been to Réunion. Mauritius is nice. It's not my favorite. It's very built up, Mauritius. You know, it's had a lot of people there a long time.
Yes.
I preferred Réunion, although Réunion's nowhere near as friendly as Mauritius. Even though Mauritius is French, Réunion is thoroughly French, and the French have French can just be very aggressive. It seems like they're aggressive, but inside I think they're nice. But you know, it's like, why are you over here? You want to see mountain? It's there. This type of behavior, but in their heads I think they're nice, but they just seem to come across. But Reunions might have these people that seem aggressive, but the scenery is super beautiful. Very mountainous, active volcanoes, which I like. I forget the name of the one, some French name, but they've got a continuously erupting volcano there. You can't get close to it. It's quite violent with its eruptions. Like Jurassic Park. Reunion looks like Jurassic Park. It's really nice. Whereas Mauritius is very flat and only has a few mountainous areas in the north. So.
Oh, that's cool. What about like Pacific Islands, Pacific area? Where have you been, and what you want to emphasize?
Well, New Caledonia and that, and I've places like Tahiti, Solomon Islands. I've forgotten the other names of islands.
Maybe Vanuatu?
No. I've been there, but more obscure ones that everyone goes to, a lot of tourists go to, are completely.
Papua? Papua New Guinea?
Stopped in Papua New Guinea with Princess Cruises once, and Borneo. And all around in Indonesia did that in the mid 2000s, and Singapore. But more Pacific, I'm thinking of. I've completely gone
Guam.
back. Guam, no. Guam is where Koreans love to go. I would love to go there. Guam is the island that Koreans go to when they want a tropical island. They go to Guam.
Maybe Fiji, Tonga.
That's it. Sorry, Tonga. And
You've
Fiji.
been in Tonga?
Yes, many times. Yeah.
Really, many times.
It's nice. I do not see the big deal. You know, they are flat coral islands. I'll tell you this: coral islands are my least favorite. Meaning they are being built up. They exist because coral raised up out of it. They're always flat. they don't have much diversity in wildlife and nature because there's not, when you haven't got volcanic soil, it's not very fertile, so you don't get a big diversity. So every coral island from the Caribbean to Pacific is not my favorite.
Yes.
I love the volcanic ones. They're always more interesting. Hawaii,
It's more
one of my
green
favorite.
and more like
Yes.
the land is more fertile.
Yes,
right?
like Tahiti's gorgeous. If you get outside the main town, Tahiti's absolutely stunning. And Hawaii, of course, everybody loves Hawaii.
Yeah,
But
Hawaii,
Hawaii is
of course.
very beautiful.
Did you do any activities in Pacific, like climbing volcanoes or I don't know, diving or whatever?
In Tahiti, took a ferry over to a nearby island off the coast of Tahiti, and there was a extinct volcano there, and climbed to the top of its rim. And then when you get to the edge, and I forget the name, so many names. When you get to the edge, we had to hack through forest. Me and my friend, a photographer friend, we had to cut plants to get through. The trail was overgrown to the point where we had to pull stuff apart. And then a farmer who was farming, I don't know, probably marijuana. He was probably farming marijuana weed in the forest there. He saw us and he helped us actually show us the right path. We were going the wrong direction. He was a very nice guy. He uses hacking machete to hack a path and then pointed us. And we went over the edge, and it was like seeing something, but even better, seeing something from Jurassic Park. Just nothing. A huge crater, overgrown with forest, and in the distance these really sharp, pointy peaks. No villages, no roads, no paths, nothing. Just nothing. Really, I felt like we expected to see a flying dinosaur at that stage. Absolutely amazing. But this was difficult to get to. 1 hour high-speed ferry from the main town in Tahiti, which I can't remember the name of.
Papete.
Yes, Papete.
Alright.
An hour by ferry, and then the last ferry was 5 p.m. and that was it. And the ship was leaving at 11 p.m. that night, and we almost missed that last ferry back to the island. We were within minutes. It was pulling up. We were like 2 minutes before it's leaving. We were running down the mountain, and we saw it like engines on, and it looked like people were releasing ropes. Never run so fast in my whole life. Serious.
Otherwise, you have to live there with the dinosaurs.
Yeah, live in the forest.
That's funny.
When are you going to ask about Korea? I'm dying.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about Korea because Sheldon spent the last 10 years or so living in South Korea. So let's talk about South Korea.
I'll try and shorten it whilst our whole interview will be.
Tell us your experience, what you like, what you don't like, how you feel, and whatever.
I'll start with what I don't like because, if I speak too positive about South Korea, I understand people look at me and they think, oh, of course, everything's perfect in South Korea, Sheldon. It isn't. It really isn't. I think it's definitely a difficult country for a Westerner to move to. And if you really, really don't have a passion to want to be there and want to fit in, then it's really not the place for you. And I can understand that. Other countries, United States, Europe, you can move to as a foreigner, and you can either, for instance, if a Chinese person or a Korean person moves to the United States, they'll often live in their own little Chinese community in New York or Chicago, or they'll live within Koreatown or a Chinatown.
Yeah.
And I could never really understand that. I would always look at that and think, why don't they just try and fit in, It's easy for us to say that. But once you've lived in Korea, and I think seen a lot of China, then you can understand why it's hard for them to just fit into a Western society. Because there's no way I could be in Korea and be a Westerner still and live a Western life. I would have to start my own Western town or something, You can't. So I see why Koreans move away from Korea. Sometimes if they've left Korea, they need to find their own community because their country is just so darn different. And I've been, I'll never be Korean. I'll say this first of all, I'll never be Korean. Of course not. I don't look Korean, but I'll never be Korean.
Yes.
For Chinese and Korean identity, it's based on your blood, the way you look, where you were born. So I'll always be a Westerner in Korea. I'm not running around thinking I'm gonna, eat more of their food, listen to their music, and then I'll be Korean. No, I'll be Westerner, but I've got Korea in my heart, and I love the place. And you really have to bend to live there, bend to their ways. And I don't have any Western friends in Korea. And I don't want any Western friends in Korea, because I see sometimes Western people go there and they stick to, there's an area in Seoul called, why have I gone blank? It's because I never go there. But there's a shopping district called Myeongdong, and everyone shops there, and the tourists shop there, and I avoid this place. Sorry, Itaewon. Itaewon is the western area in Seoul. And I find a lot of Westerners move there and they stick to this little western area, and you're not really experiencing Korea then, you know?
Oh,
So
right.
I don't even walk there. And if I have to walk through there, I get annoyed, because I look at some Western people just hanging out with Westerners there, and I think, why are you in Korea if you are still hanging out with Westerners? Try, you know. So I don't live there, thank God. I live in Sinchon, which is northwest Seoul. You know, and Korea is lovely. The problems are high suicide rates. A lot of people kill themselves because they don't get the universities. They don't get into a university they want. I think, and in Korea there's a sad statistic where it's got one of the highest rates of old person suicide. Because when Korea built itself up in the 70s and the 80s, the government didn't implement a plan to support old people when they get old with money, financial. You know, where you put money into a plan and then you get your retirement?
Yes.
They never did that. So right now there's a lot of older people living in shame and poverty. And in Korea, instead of relying on the young people to look after them, a lot of the old people feel so ashamed that they commit suicide. And that's a sad, big problem. But onto the things I love. You know, it's a very safe place. Safety much higher than any safe European country, that type of safety. I mean, the States and Britain are dangerous in comparison to Korea,
Okay.
but Korea is even safer than, say, Norway or Sweden, which are very, very safe countries compared to Britain.
Yes.
Safety as in a young Korean woman can walk by herself at midnight home from a party or from her job. And I say from her job because that might sound strange. Someone's listening now saying, from a job at midnight? Well, who's working till midnight? Well, most shops in Korea are open till 11 p.m. That's a standard working hour. Not business. I mean, offices and banks and medical facilities shut at 5, 6. But shops shut at 11 p.m. even on a Sunday in Korea.
Okay.
So a lot of people are coming home at midnight. It's very beautiful. Seoul, you know, the Seoul and surrounding area has 27 million people, but there's 4 mountains within the city. So a few of my South African friends say, oh, you know, at least South Africa has nature. It must be hard living in Seoul because it's just such a big city and no nature. Wow, completely the opposite. Seoul's one of the few cities I've been to that has mountains in the center of the central business district. So that's like having a mountain in the middle of New York City. Okay, New York has Central Park, but that's not a comparison.
Yes.
Because Seoul has huge mountains, slap bang middle, and then it's got skyscrapers and then another mountain and buildings around that. Very unique. So you never get a full view of the city. When you look at Seoul, you'll always just see a part of the city because there's always a mountain blocking the next view.
Yes. Awesome.
But essentially it's just this big mashup of mountains like Namsan and right in the center with the iconic North Seoul Tower that sits right in the middle of the city. So it's all these mountains in the city. So if you want nature, you can go and walk what seems like pristine nature right in the middle of the city, which is very, very unique. And of course the people. If any of my friends see this video, because I'll probably forward it to them once you, if you ever publish this. Very lovely people, you know, difficult friends. I'm kidding. All friends can be difficult, but lovely people. I think as long as you show an interest in their culture after you've lived there a few months or a few years, then they will get on much better with you. And the same goes for Japanese people. If you live in their country a few years and you are not making any effort to learn the language or to integrate to their way, then they won't like you that much. And I can understand that. I think that's fair. If you're going to live there and eat burgers and reject all their customs, then I don't think you should live there. But I'll still eat burgers, just so I'm not trying to be Korean. I love burgers still. I still eat the stuff, but I love their food too. Gosh, listen, I'm rambling about Korea. I think that's as much as I can say. Yep.
All right.
Love it there.
So what do you think about North Korea?
Oh, and I think they have lovely people. I mean, they're essentially South Koreans as well. You know, they would have been Koreans just a few decades ago. So there's not much difference. If they look any different, it's only because of the fact that they don't have the same makeup techniques and hair techniques that South Koreans have. Very beautiful people, but of course they're under a heavy dictatorship. Of course I don't agree. No, definitely not.
Yes.
But I'm not one of these people that sits back and says, gosh, the North should just integrate with the South. No, there's no such the North cannot just integrate with the South. That's just a silly dream that some people that don't understand the countries have. It cannot just happen. They are so different now, even with the language, because they speak Korean, but it's really not the same as what the South Koreans. The dialect is so different as to be almost non-understandable to South Koreans. So apart from the language difference, their cultural differences are so great. You can't just drop that border and have them mix in. It would be an absolute disaster. The North Koreans would have no understanding of South Korean cultures, beliefs, and ways of life. You would have to have a very gradual integration over decades. I think it can be done, but over 30, 40 years. Maybe the North, I think the best way is the North's government changes. They make an agreement to integrate with the South, and limited number of people are allowed to come from the North. The ones that have to write an exam or something, or an integration exam, who really want to come to the South can come over. And that would be great. Because I can tell you now, no matter what the West says, millions of Northerners are not desperately trying to get to the South. That's not true at all. They are so brainwashed that many of them want to stay in the North, and that won't change for decades. Until they actually see the South as more prosperous. They have to see it for themselves, you know. Because right now, if they get any information, they just believe it's lies from the South. The South sometimes will drop pamphlets to the North saying, like, look, we have Korean pop music, which I love. We have Korean pop music. Look how beautiful our girls are. Our girls can use these makeup techniques. They try to appeal to the woman. And I know the Northern women think, well, this is just lies and garbage. It's just the South lying so that we can want to come to change our minds. So it's something a Northerner would have to travel to the South. Maybe if they were integrated again, the North Koreans would be allowed travel passes, come visit Seoul for a day, actually see that this is all true, then go back to the North and think about it.
Yes.
That's what you need. You can't just have a border open. That would be a disaster. But I'll say this, Kim Jong-il's sister is pretty. She is pretty. I don't know if she's probably the next one in charge. She's a very nice looking lady. I know my friends are thinking I'm crazy now. I don't care.
So, which country you want to visit next?
Visit next. I've visited China a lot, but a different place in China. And you know, to be honest, right now, a different place. First on my list, a different place in Korea. There's a province in eastern Korea called Gyeonggi province, and I have not traveled there enough. So I would love to go there. It's got very volcanic islands off the coast, which Japan likes to say are their islands, but they are Korean names and they've been owned by Korea for 50 years, but it's naughty Japan. I'd love to visit those islands. They're under Korean, there's no problems, they're under Korean governorship, but beautiful islands. When you see them, you would never think it's Korea. It looks like Hawaii, essentially. Huge cliffs, tropical forest. So I think in my mind, definitely, I forget the name of the islands now, but the islands of the Gyeonggi province in the east of Korea. And then from Seoul, easy to get to. You take a bullet train 2 hours to the east, and a ferry, 1 hour ferry over. So you can do it in a day trip. You leave 6 in the morning from Seoul, you'll have your feet on that island by 10 a.m. Which is amazing when you consider the island is halfway over to Japan. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's my next place.
What about the country, different countries?
Like a different country, like that I haven't been to.
Yeah.
I haven't been to.
Yeah, the one you haven't been.
Not the same countries I've been to. To be honest, it's not something I think about. I don't know if I can even answer that because I don't. I still sit in Korea thinking about all the places I haven't seen there, and I haven't even thought of going to a different place. Like I want to have Iceland.
Okay.
Because I love volcanoes, and Iceland's got all these active volcanoes you can go see, and beautiful. Of course, everyone's seen Iceland. It's got some of the most unique landscapes. It looks like a surface of another planet.
Yeah.
It's Iceland.
Okay, what you want to wish to the people who want to travel, or what is your feelings about traveling, and just some message.
Message.
Goodbye message.
Yeah, goodbye. For traveling, I would say, back when I was studying at university and I got a job as electronic engineer, that seemed like the intelligent thing to do. I could have just stuck with it, I guess. Maybe I'd have more money now. Who knows? But I chose to make a very difficult decision against the people that raised me, my grandparents, which are wonderful people. But sometimes you need to do something not selfishly for yourself, but if you really feel your job is just not the job that's making you happy, and not all jobs do. In fact, I think most jobs are not that amazing. But if you're really feeling awful about your job, I would say take a chance and leave it. If you can. I'm not being crazy. I'm not saying leave it and be poor for the rest of your life. But if you can leave it, sometimes you just need to take that chance. Because if I hadn't left the boring electronic engineering job, I would never have done all the traveling. I would never have moved to Korea, my dream country for me. Yeah, so I say that. And I didn't say before, in case anybody doesn't see, my best job ever was when I worked in Korea. A total of 5 years as a camera operator for a music video studio, and that was the best job ever. And I want to go back to that. I will go back to that. But for instance, that job would never have happened if I didn't have my electronic engineering degree. So I didn't do it for nothing. I did get that degree for a reason. That got me that job. But I just dropped out of being a boring electronic engineer. So, in closing, sometimes take that little chance. It sounds cliched, everybody says that, I guess, but I think my life is proof that sometimes if you take that little chance, you can kind of get your dream job. Although I don't think right now the world is a dream for anybody. So I guess my main wish now is that this crappy coronavirus gets sorted out, we have a proper vaccine, and everybody can get back to their normal life. That's it.
Okay, thank you for watching, and
Yes.
Thanks Sheldon for this great talk, and it was a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
And I will leave Sheldon profile link in the comments below, and see you next episode. Bye bye.
See you.